This is Pastor Gray with the Wednesday message for the 12th of August 2020. And the title of the message is Imprisoned by Lockdown. I'll say that again. The title is Imprisoned by Lockdown. Over the past few days I've talked with neighbours and pastors, and the subject that always comes up is lockdown. People over the magical age of 60 face lockdown in two ways. Firstly, if one is content to be at home pursuing hobbies, watching television, happy with one's own company, lockdown is not too much of an imposition. However, if you are still pursuing an active life, you like going out, visiting family, visiting friends, and especially shopping, to be restricted in the house has the same feeling of being imprisoned. No conversation except by phone or text, no visits, shopping being left on the doorstep, inability even to buy the necessities for the garden where you would normally spend some of your time. It makes you wonder how to spend the hours of the day and the days of the week. I share in this frustration. Due to my hip injury and lockdown, I have only been out of the house 4 or 5 times since the end of last year. I am so grateful to God for giving me the opportunity to write the Wednesday message and prepare for the Sunday broadcast, Sundays at 10 online. This takes 3 days of my week and gives me something to think and ponder about all week. Going to the Bible, many of the well-known patriarchs have spent time in some kind of prison. Firstly, Jeremiah, the prophet, who spent the whole of his life declaring the word of God, trying to persuade kings and leaders to change their ways and to fall into God's plan, eventually, as a captive, was thrown into a dungeon, assisted actually, in the house of Jonathan, for an unknown but lengthy period of time. Upon his release, he was kept captive in the courtyard. Some have suggested in a suspended basket with 1 loaf of bread from the bakery allocated to him per day. This didn't quieten him. He pursued his mission. Paul and Silas were thrown into jail in Philippi for curing a girl from demons, again doing nothing wrong. Peter and John were thrown into prison for preaching the gospel. Moses had a different type of prison. After protecting a Hebrew, an Egyptian died, and he had to leave Egypt. His prison was open fields and the company of sheep, in hiding from the consequences. The third emperor of Rome, who delighted in torturing the Christians to gain the approval of the citizens, even though many miraculous miracles are recorded, John the Apostle was one of these. However, as he was protected from the tortures, he was then thrown into a tub of hot oil. Instead of screaming because of the heat, he continued to preach. Eventually he was released and was then exiled onto the Isle of Patmos. These are to name but a few, but each one had a purpose. Jeremiah would never have known the value of his declarations, words of instructions in today's society. Paul and Silas were able to commence a church in Philippi under the leadership of Lydia and the jailer, and teach us a lesson in praise. Moses, after his training in the palace, needed training in leadership as a shepherd, but had to wait God's time to be of use. He was 80 when that time came and had to be persuaded that the years of preparation were now to be executed. It would need all the skills he had acquired to face Pharaoh, the children of Israel, and to lead them out of Egypt. Peter and John had to be tested by God for their future roles, so confronted by leaders of the temple, they have to make the confession that they would not cease to talk about Jesus, whatever the consequence. Also, establish the work of the angels, releasing Peter, and the revelation to the early church of supernatural activities and answered prayer when Peter eventually arrived at the door knocking. John the Apostle, after being faithful in Rome, then had the time in Patmos. First of all, we understand, to be instrumental in converting all of the inhabitants of the island, and secondly, to hear directly from Jesus himself the prophecy of the revelation. If our lockdown is a prison of whatever type, what is in God's purpose in our minds for this period of time? Is it for us to be quiet and get closer to Him? Study? Preparation for ministry in the future of whatever type, personal or in the church? To take a rest from our busy lives, to consider what life is all about? What is actually God asking of us? To get a new perspective of the value of our activities, or the importance of our previous lifestyles? Perhaps this is a time to devote to prayer, to Bible reading, to listening to God, usefully using this new time of imprisonment. God bless you all. This is Pastor Gray saying bye for now. We'll see you soon.